This is the weekend edition of Newswatch for Sunday, October 15th, with Steve Anderson. And from New York, Tom Gerald and the ABC Weekend News.
Good evening. The 95th Congress finally adjourned tonight after a round-the-clock attack on unfinished business. Numerous bills were passed before the session ended, including the Humphrey Hawkins full employment bill. And ABC will have more details on this story coming up at 10:15. The Democratic candidate for North Dakota's Public Service Commissioner, Robert Hansen, was in Fargo yesterday. Hansen, who was running against incumbent Richard Elkin, told us there are a number of ideas, or issues rather, that he would handle differently. He says he's disturbed by the large increases in electric rates in the state and especially in Grand Forks.
NSP rates have risen about 250% in Fargo, Moorhead, or Grand Forks, excuse me, in just the last few years, and that's obscene. I think their rate structure should probably be evened out. MDU was in with a gas rate increase request, and I went to their hearing, and it really disturbed me that MDU had hired over $500,000 worth of consultants for their service area. And when I asked what they were going to do, who's going to pay this $500,000 bill, and they said the ratepayers, and that's absolutely wrong in my book. I don't think the ratepayers should have to pay for consultants. No, when I asked the question of how many letters that came into the Public Service Commission supported the rate increase, there were none. And the ratepayers didn't want those increases, and I don't think we should have to be paying for the consultants to bolster their case.
A former top official in Minnesota Governor's Manpower Commission, Emil Moratsky of Detroit Lakes, says he has no intention of repaying $60 or make that $5,600 in travel money. Governor Rudy Perpich has demanded that he make repayment of the money by this Tuesday. If not, Perpich says he will turn over collection to the Attorney General's office. A legislative auditor said the $1,000 reflected travel between Moratsky's home in Detroit Lakes and his office in St. Paul. The auditor said the money should not be used or should have been collected since those trips were merely travel from home to job and not legitimate business trips. Moratsky collected another $6,000 in travel money in 2 years from August 1975 and August 1977. If you're going to work in Fargo tomorrow, you might want to know about a railroad crossing that will be closed. The 27th Street crossing of the Burlington Northern tracks will be closed tomorrow through Friday. The railroad and the city will cooperate on repairing the crossing, which is just north of Main Avenue on 27th Street. If the weather doesn't cooperate, the street could be closed for even longer than the scheduled one-week period. Motorists are urged to use the 23rd Street crossing of the underpass next to I-29 while that construction is going on. A squad of area Army reserves were busy today in Fargo building some playground equipment. Company D of the 367th Engineers were putting up a platform suspension bridge at the Hawthorne Elementary School here in Fargo. The squad started the project yesterday, and they worked from 11 o'clock yesterday. They finished it finally this afternoon. When not building playground equipment, the company is involved in other community projects and was very active during the flood in putting up dikes. The reserves put in about 1 weekend a month as well as 2 weeks of training every summer. They were contacted about the school project by parents of Hawthorne Elementary students. We're into harvest time again, and farmers in our own areas of the country are finding some unwelcome guests are making themselves at home in their fields. Swarms of grasshoppers hopping cross-country have helped themselves to anything that's green, growing, and tastes good. One of the nation's hardest hit areas is Shelby County in north-central Kentucky. With that story, here's Bob Rucker.
These pesky little critters are supposed to hop from plant to plant, taking a nibble now and then. But nobody told them that this year. So once rolling pastures of burley tobacco now look like green blotches of Swiss cheese.
Statewide, we have about 450 million pounds of tobacco, burley tobacco in the state, and I'd estimate a 3% loss, maybe 1 million pounds. That sounds big, but yet the grasshoppers are pretty rough. I guess we notice it more than burley because it is our #1 cash crop, but if we drive around or look at the edges of cornfields, even our alfalfa hay fields, soybeans, these crops have all been damaged at least to some extent by these grasshoppers.
After dinner, the long-legged moving peril feasted their eyes on dessert, eating their fill of storm doors, wood, and even an old pickup truck left out in the field.
The window had been down on it. The steering wheel was made out of plastic, as the nylon screens are, synthetic. And they didn't eat the steering wheel up. Now, we're not going, let's don't go that far with it. But it was evident that pieces had been bitten out of the steering wheel.
Many farmers feel their hands are tied because of a federal ban on strong insecticides. And for the hardest hit, little can be done about this year's crop. But come next spring, a new repellent will be available that hopefully will put the hopper out to lunch for good. Bob Rucker reporting.
It's tough to stay number one, but Dakota TV and Appliance in Grand Forks is going to stay number one by offering you gigantic savings on Zenith Color TVs through October 30th. In Zenith for $327, 17-inch for $367, 19-inch color for $387, Zenith 23-inch for $587, and Zenith 25-inch color consoles for the low price of $597. Go ahead, compare prices, and see why Dakota TV and Appliance is North Dakota's largest Zenith dealer. Save like never before. Now, at Dakota TV and Appliance in Grand Forks.
You know, I don't know too much about cars and car service, but I do know this. National Muffler can install a muffler on any car quickly, and it's guaranteed for only $16.95. And for trucks, RVs 1 ton and over, it's only $21.95. And even for the special jobs, National Muffler will bend pipe and form it to fit the needs of your car. So when you have muffler problems, get estimates and make sure one is from National Muffler, because they exhaust cars, not your pocketbook.
National Muffler, 1002 North 5th in Grand Forks and 72 North 2nd in Fargo.
Congressman Mark Andrews frequently speaks about the dangers of big government and its impact upon North Dakota people. In Washington, he puts determined effort behind legislative views of federal government agencies and programs and bring an end to those that are unnecessary, wasteful, and inefficient. Mark believes that government should be responsive to the people. Re-elect Mark Andrews to Congress. He's hardworking, serving you.
Well, it wasn't exactly a beautiful day across the Fargo, Moorhead, or Red River Valley area today, and it's not going to be much better tomorrow, but we'll take a look at that a little later. Right now outside, cloudy in Fargo, Moorhead. Temperature is 40 degrees. Winds are from the northwest now at 12 miles an hour. Humidity is 73%. The pressure is rising from 30.23. A record high of 83 back in 1953. The year before that on this date, we had a record low of 18 degrees in Fargo, Moorhead. Now in Grand Forks, temperature is 41. They have partly cloudy skies in Grand Forks. Winds are from the north at 10. Humidity is 85%. The pressure right now is 30.27. Record high was 82 in 1953, and the record low way back in 1919 when the record low was 16 degrees. And now we'll take a look at today's highs across the area. A little bit warmer into South Dakota and the western Dakotas. 54 in Williston for a high, 56 in Dickinson, got up to 46 in Minot, and 52 in Bismarck. 45 degrees in Devil's Lake, 49 in Jamestown, 45 for high in Grand Forks. Fargo, Moorhead got up to 46 today. Into Minnesota, 43 at International Falls, 45s for both Duluth and Bemidji. Alexandria had a high of 46. Minneapolis-St. Paul had a high of 49. 53 for the high in Aberdeen, and 60 the high temperature reading today in Pierre. 63 out in Rapid City. They take the honors for the warm spot today, and it was 56 in Sioux Falls. In our forecast, well, here's what we're expecting. Variable cloudiness throughout the evening. Temperature very cool. We've had our frost, and now we've got a chance of getting very cool below that freezing point of 32. We'll get down to 26 to 30 probably tonight under light and variable winds. Tomorrow, not quite so cloudy, partly cloudy skies, temperature between 50 and 54, and winds will be from the southeast, pretty heavy at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy, clouding up again. Temperature will be between 33 and 37, so a little bit warmer tomorrow night. The extended forecast right now for Tuesday through Friday looks pretty good. No rain in the forecast, and highs expected to be between 54 and 60. Lows will be between 33 and 40. And that's a look at the weather. We're going to have some sports news. A lot of it happened today. We'll be back with that right after this message.
In the entire world, only one sleep set has all these deluxe features. Eastman House. Eastman House has a border that breathes and circulates the air. In the center, there's extra support where we need it most. Every mattress spring is matched by another in the box spring. At Eastman House, somebody still cares about quality.
Available at Fargo Furniture and Auction City Sales, Valley City.
The 79 Cats are here. If you've been waiting for a new snowmobile, you've waited long enough. Reach out and grab a handful of right-priced fun with the 79 Lynx. With its solid, smooth comfort, you'll know why the Pantera is referred to as the Cadillac. And don't forget the Kitty Cat. It'll let your little riders go solo and keep them safe. Now you can see why there's never been a better time to get a new Arctic Cat. Lake away in Thief River Falls and Tufty Sales in Northwood.
Well, the New York Yankees were treated to a comedy of errors by the Los Angeles Dodgers today. The Yankees won today's World Series game by a score of 12-2 behind Thurman Munson's 5 RBIs, and they take a 3-2 advantage. The victory was the third straight for the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. Last night's game, the World Series game, is still being talked about today. If you watched that one, you may remember the controversial play involving who else? Reggie Jackson. With that story, here's Ted Dawson.
Around the post-game dressing rooms last night, there was but one topic of conversation. That, of course, the controversial play in the 7th inning that allowed the Yankees to score after Reggie Jackson was not called for interference.
When he threw the ball to first base, that Jackson stood directly in front of the first baseman. I think that once a runner is put out, he should make an attempt to get out of the way of the ball.
The angle that I had at first base, I couldn't tell whether Reggie went out of the line to interfere with the ball. And in my judgment, that's why I ruled that there was no intentional interference on Reggie's part.
I didn't get confused. I thought of running back to second base, and with nowhere to go, he then throws over to first base, and he just threw it right in my road, and, you know, I just froze.
The umpire thought, in his opinion, that that's the way the play was called. I went out there and argued. I'm not going to use the word rob. I don't think that's the proper word to use.
For ABC News, this is Ted Dawson reporting.
The World Series now moves back to Dodger Stadium, where the Dodgers won the first 2 games, you may remember, last Tuesday and Wednesday. Well, it wasn't a good day for the Minnesota Vikings today. They lost to the Los Angeles Rams by a score of 34-17. If that wasn't bad enough, second-string quarterback Tommy Kramer was carried off the field on a stretcher with a possible concussion. Well, it was Los Angeles quarterback Pat Hayden who was on the mark today. Hayden engineered 2 touchdown drives, and Isaiah Robertson scored on a fumble return in the 4th quarter to rally the Rams. The Rams trailed 17-13 going into the 4th quarter. Today's victory was the first in 11 games for against the Vikings. Minnesota's record now stands below the 500 mark. Their record is 3-4. Let's take a look at our scores across the league today. And it was not a good day for the Vikings, as I told you, but not good for Tampa Bay either. The Giants over Tampa Bay 17-14. Philadelphia downing Washington, and Atlanta beating Detroit today. New England over Cincinnati 10-3. Pittsburgh with a lot of points 34-14. Houston over Buffalo 17-10. Dallas beat St. Louis in overtime today. New York Jets 33-10 over the Colts. Seattle losing to Green Bay, so Green Bay now is on a hot streak, and they have only lost 1 game. Kansas City losing to Oakland, Los Angeles over Minnesota, as I told you, Miami over San Diego. And one last score to report, New Orleans beating San Francisco 14-7. That's it for Newswatch. Thank you for watching, and ABC Evening News is coming up next. Stay tuned.